CuttingwithE. If you want to follow him, he actually has a lot of good shorts and content on his YouTube page. I don't want to take away from his page. He does have a lot of information. His name is scrolling at the bottom on this as well. So we're going over to Don Lemon, and this is actually the first interaction that they had together when he came up to Don Lemon's show. So we're going to play this, and then we're going to discuss this.
I wish I'd met this next gentleman under better circumstances, because I'm happy to meet him, but I understand the times that we're in and the circumstances in which we're speaking. And that was a gentleman that you were seeing before we went to our sponsored break. His name is Emmanuel CuttingwithE, and he has been doing videos on this on his social media, but also I should say he knows the people involved. He says he's known them for years, and that he gave Nolan his first haircut. He knows the family. So Mr. CuttingwithE, welcome. Thank you for joining the Don Lemon Show this morning. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Hey, I'm glad to be here with you. Just to clarify something, the CuttingwithE, that's my social media name, CuttingwithE. So you could, my first name is Emmanuel, but that's my social media, CuttingwithE on YouTube and IG and Facebook and all of that. But I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
So talk to me about, thank you for clarifying that, but we want to make sure that you get people know who you are, that they are on your social media and they watch because you have some good stuff. And also if they're there, that they, give you some business. I think that's fair in this, especially in this environment that we're in. So talk to me, Emmanuel, how do you know Nolan? Let's start with how you know Nolan Wells and his family.
Okay. Well, I've been knowing his mom since she was like in high school and whatnot, but I can't, and his stepfather, we still work out in the same gym together right now. And, I came to know Nolan through his, she had this lady babysitting, and I'm real good friends with her son, Bingo. And they would bring him around, bring him to my barbershop all the time. And I gave him his first haircut. And we used to have him to say, every time he would leave, we would say, "What's your name?" And he would say, "Nolan Wells." And we all used to laugh at it. We used to make him say his name every single time, man. He was a funny little kid, man. That was what was up, though. But yeah, that's how I came to first know him,
Yeah. And over the years, you watched him grow up?
Yeah, I watched him grow. I didn't see him for a period of time. And then he became a football player. And I used to go to his games and watch him play all the time. And, and his dad was a football player as well out of Morris Point. He went up to Mississippi State. And so I knew he was going to be a stellar athlete. You know what I'm saying? His dad working with him every day the way he was, everybody that come through his dad's training and stuff like that, all be pretty good athletes, And Nolan went no difference. He was good. He was a great athlete. Had NFL potential, man. Had the right size and everything.
Yeah. So what is it like there? Wait, hold on. Before I get there, do you know the other kids involved? Do you know some of the friends?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead. How do you know them?
Well, with the recent ones that was on like TMZ, I spoke with him Friday night. I know one of the white guys and one of the pitchers, where it's quite a few of them, not one of the three on the boat. They were all in a collective group there. And me and his father, we're very good friends. We get up and have lunch about 2 or 3 times a week currently. Listen, man, I want to say this to you. I know it's probably not following your questionnaires, but that is a problem that we're having here. There's a lot of blacks right along with a lot of whites that are having this problem. When Ben Crump and Al Sharpton came to our state, I think one thing they did wrong was you can't come down here and start saying that our state is prejudiced. This is prejudiced place. This is the state that lynched and killed Emmett Till. Well, that was 71 years ago. And Emmett Till was killed for looking and whistling at a white woman. These days, it's so many blacks having babies with white people. White men are marrying black women down here. We have so many sandy brown haired mixed babies running around down here. We are a gumbo down here. And another thing, Don, is we are a military community. That's how we got here. My dad is originally from Louisiana and my mom's New Orleans. And my dad was military. That's how I got here, through Keishler. And so we have Navy bases here and Air Force bases here. That's what we are. And it's a gumbo. Everybody, white people try their best to not ruffle the feathers of black people. And black people try their best not to ruffle the feathers of white people for the majority of it. So when Ben Crump come to this town and start saying things like that, he's alienating these people and he's getting pushback now. That's why he's getting all this pushback. And it's going to me, it's hurting the whole entire investigation, which is why he's probably not getting a lot of help from people. To me, that's the deal. You cannot come in here and tell us how racist we are. Well, these people showing you how they hate you doing that type of stuff in our community, and he's going to get this type of pushback that he's getting.
Okay, can I jump in here?
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, look, I'm from Louisiana, so I know there's lots of mix. I mean, we are all that's what Creole and mulatto is about. We've been mixing it up. We invented mixing it up in Louisiana, so I understand what you're saying. But that doesn't end racism. Sometimes it heightens it, right? Because then there's a hierarchy, and then there's colorism, and then people say, well, I can't be racist because I'm married to a white person or whatever, or I'm married to a black person, and we know that that's not true. The other thing that sounds like, though, and I just want to put this here, I'm not trying to insult you, is like it kind of sounds like back in the civil rights movement when people would say these outside agitators are coming here and telling us what to do, and we don't want race mixing here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I understand how people may feel, but sometimes I just want you to take this into account. Sometimes it takes, and I'm not saying they're doing this, but just to think about this, sometimes it takes someone who comes from the outside to hold up a mirror so that you can see what's happening, because sometimes you're too close for the forest to see the trees. All right.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that doesn't exist, that people shouldn't feel that way, but I think that people should have an open mind about it, because that's what civil rights leaders did back in the day.
Well, okay, go on. I'm for them coming to find justice, but you cannot walk into this town claiming it's racism, all these same state to kill Emmett Till, these racist white people. When that eulogy, I was at the funeral. That eulogy had to be, and just so I was sitting up, you can see this is his obituary. So that eulogy had to be the hardest eulogy for Al Sharpton. When you walked in his church and you saw 30% of the church is white. These are his friends. These are all the people he hang out with. Here's what I'm saying, Don. It's like in this generation, it's like we're still charging cases like we're in the 60s when something happens here. I'm not saying a white man did not kill Nolan. What I'm saying is,
well, we don't know that. I'm not going there.
Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying it could be over something else. It may be over a girl. Why does race have to lead every time? Why are we leading this investigation with race? Because that's where you're upsetting everybody. And it's when you're saying race, when he's been hanging with them same white guys all his life. And
I have an explanation for you about why, possibly. Because when the photographs came out initially, it was just Nolan with all white people. Right. And he's and so the world, this is not just Ben Crump. The family asked Ben Crump to come in. It's not like he volunteered to do this. OK, so, and not that I'm defending Ben Crump. I'm just sort of explaining to you why why people think race is involved and why it's involved. First of all, let's just be honest, Emmanuel. We know the history of the country. We do know the history of Mississippi. And one of the best indicators of what the present is and possibly the future is the history, right, of something, the history of your medical thing. You heard Al Sharpton say that at the funeral. When you go into the doctor and you say,
so I'm going to stop it here first because I see Rain wheels are turning. I want to allow you the opportunity to express so we don't get too far into the segment. So go ahead.
I was on mute. Myself, coming from a military town, there is a lot of different race mixes, and exactly what he said. I agree with him on a lot of things that he said. We can't negate the fact that Emmett Till happened in Mississippi. Okay, we can't do that. It did, but it's not happening today. It hasn't happened today that I know of. That was before my time. You can't put blame on somebody that has done nothing to you. Not trying to say any of this didn't happen, or there's still racism. It's going to be all over this world. And what people don't know too, and I know this is besides what we were talking about, even in other countries where you have like Afro Latinos and you have Afro Englanders and whatnot, they go through the same thing that we go through. Not necessarily the same thing that we go through here in the States, but their skin color determines some things. Sometimes you still have those racial matters all over the world, not just the United States. And here, I think that E is trying to say that, and what I said in the first segment was, my point of view is different than y'all's outsiders. Y'all are putting a narrative on Mississippi based off its history. Yes. Things can evolve. Things can move forward. We don't have to necessarily live in the past every day, but also what I didn't like, I'm normally, neutral when it comes to Don Lemon, but it's like he was trying to push the race narrative so hard on E when E wasn't pushing the race narrative. He really wants to know what happened to Nolan. He wants to explain that white folks are hanging out with black folks hanging out with white folks, and there's a good mixture down there because of these military towns that are near where they are. When you have military towns near where you are, I'm in one every day. You got that mix of of races, of races, not ist,
Mhm.
races, different ethnicities, so it's like a melting pot. Does racism happen still? Absolutely. Absolutely it does. But I think in Nolan's Wells situation, that picture is what took it over the edge. That picture that you see right there is what took it over the edge. The first thing somebody thought was, mm, hanging around with a bunch of white folks. It's got to be racial. It's got to be racial. All them white boys, they ended Nolan's life.
But I would have to push back on you though, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't and I even heard Don Lemon say, and I think that's the problem with the world. He
Hmm.
kept saying everyone. No, because Souls never said that.
Hmm.
No, because Emmanuel never said that.
No, yeah,
No, even the person everybody hates named Officer Tatum never said that. It's
right.
the people who are focusing on the race is just louder. They're more they're more theatrical. They're cool to click on YouTube because they're going to give you all this blackity black talk and like that's what everybody wants to click on. But it's
Yeah.
a lot of us out here like myself who are like, hey, how about we just wait? How about we just use some common sense here? How about we just not think everything has to be about this one topic that we want it to be about? Because I think I asked you this either today or earlier in the week, Rain. I said, what if the outcome is not what we want it to be? And when I say we, I mean African Americans. What if it's not what
Mhm.
the black community wants it to be? How are you going to move forward when you have prepared yourself to think one way?
Yeah.
You're not benefiting the family, you're not benefiting the world, you're not benefiting society. And then what are you going to talk about on your YouTube channel afterwards?
You know, I think for the majority of the public who have invested time into doing their own investigation, trying to put together the facts, on YouTube, or even if it's just somebody, Jane Dobie over here, just like, oh, let me read this article. Oh no, he didn't drown. Oh, read this article. Oh, maybe he did drown, So I think even if at the end of the day they come back and say, yes, there was water in his lungs. Yes, he actually drowned. I still think the public who is doing their un I don't even know the word to say, who's doing their own little, investigation themselves, trying to nitpick these different things that are going on. I still think if that comes out, that they will not be satisfied. There's going to be somebody, somewhere going to still want to dig deeper to try to figure out what actually happened. In my heart, and I'm saying this is an emotional thought right now. I just wish somebody would come forward, and maybe somebody already has. See, we don't know this. Maybe somebody already has, and they just have not disclosed it to the public. But I wish somebody who did see him for the last time would say, "Hey, this is exactly what happened." And I pray that at the end of all of this, I just want the family to have closure.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're gonna have true closure unless they know exactly what happened. It's gonna be hard, and that in like missing person cases and other cases where you don't really know how that person passed, or that person goes missing, or however, or they perish under you, whatever circumstances, you don't even know how they passed away. That is so hard for families, not knowing exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So
And I do want to answer Penny's question. I don't think there's ever been a fair trial in any state. And the reason why I say that is because life isn't fair. Even
mhm.
a person who we even when a person is found guilty and some people are happy, there's still another 800 million people in another room who are disappointed about the outcome. Like, I think we have to be very careful with our words. The world isn't fair. And I
Mhm.
and I, and I think that's where we're getting lost today, right? I think we're getting lost in everybody wants you to say something to make them feel better, like how Rain has to continue to sit here and tell you guys that she know racism still exists. We shouldn't even have to say that when posing a conversation. We
Yeah.
shouldn't have to state the obvious all the time, right? People get mad at me when I say anything. Oh, I'm a black man. Why you got to say you're black? Well, sometimes you got to make things very obvious to people because we live in a world where we pick and choose when we really want to know what's the real and what's not. We pick it. And I feel like that's really has been the issue with society. Like, we can't just have a conversation. Everybody wants to pick apart everything you're saying instead of just saying, hey, I don't agree with that. I agree with that. And we move on. Because at the end of the day, if you are not neutral in this case, you're you're going out for you have something you're trying to gain. Because right now we all have the same evidence and none of it leads to any proof of what happened.
No, no.
So at the end of the day, if you take everything you heard away, we all have the same answer. We don't know. So at that point, how can you push a narrative when at the end of the day the answer is we don't know? And I don't think no one in the world has ever had a fair trial. Fair? No. I don't think it exists, not even just in Mississippi, just in general. I don't think no one has a fair trial. They even start like we even accept the words that you should have people that are your peers or your those people don't know me
Yeah.
if I go commit a crime. Just because they my race, that don't mean they know me.
Yeah.
Half of y'all black people call me a coon and Uncle Tom anyway. So why would I want you sitting on my case? Are you really gonna benefit me? Like, I mean, we got to be realistic here. Like that. So these are the conversations that I think we are starting to really draw from this whole thing. I think people are really learning a lot about each other throughout the tragedies that are continuing to happen in the world. And just something we got to really think about. You know what I mean? Penny said, well, in a world that entertains the fantasy of being colorblind, it's hard to not speak from a fundamental level to establish facts of black and white even exist. Yeah, but Penny, everybody don't want you to say that. Why you got to say you're black? Why you got to say that what? We hear it all the time. So, but I respect it, man. I appreciate you, Penny, because you always like to have a conversation. I like
Mhm.
people who like to have a conversation. We don't have to agree. We can agree to disagree. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it's about a conversation. We have become the most emotional creatures in America, dog. America in a country where you have all these glamorous things, we have become so overly emotional. It's like we live in a world of mental health all day. And if you don't see it my way, you this. If you don't see, like, man, just hey, we the facts are the facts. Facts over feelings. I started my YouTube journey with that same quote. Facts over feelings. I've been saying it for years now. It's facts over feelings, period, point blank. So
And I think too, just as E has his view on Mississippi as a melting pot, and there's really not that much racism going around, and there's a mixing, you are gonna have people who are gonna say, "No, this is the most racist, place in Mississippi. Ocean Springs is the most racist place in Mississippi," and you know, I so you're gonna have those people with those different views about Ocean Springs or where they're located as well. So yeah.
this hurts, or I have this ailment, and they go, what medication are you taking? What's your family's medical history? Okay, so you have that history in Mississippi. Not everybody lives in Mississippi. And so the people who are on the internet, the people who don't live in Mississippi, they see a black guy with all white guys and they go, oh, he's the only one that didn't come home. The history of Mississippi, blah, blah, blah. So people start putting 2 and 2 together, and that's why race is involved in this, because that is the history of America. Now, whether race played a role in his demise, no one knows it. No one knows that, but there is no denying that race plays a part in this case simply because of the optics. That's where the race part came in. That may be offensive to some people there, but the truth is often offensive. That is the reality in America. Yeah, yes, sir. You can ask me. We're here to have a conversation.
Okay. When Emmett Till was killed in 1955, I believe it was, he died for whistling and simply looking at a white woman. Now, we have went from there to making babies with these white women. When does that go out of the window for, as you know, this racial component of Mississippi history years ago? How can we accept that history when it comes to—
you can accept it by acknowledging the problem. You accept it by acknowledging the problem and acknowledging the reality of the history of the country. You accept it by saying, I understand why people think race is involved. I understand why. I
understand.
You see what I mean? Don Lemon is now trying to tell him what he should be saying. But Emmanuel is like, I do understand. Like, just because we shouldn't have to speak everything. Like for somebody to feel like racism doesn't exist, that's just ignorance. Just like prejudice exists too. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's crazy. And then it coming from a black dude who's married to a white man. Like it's like we're not even taking in consideration who also is the messenger of all this. He's like it just— that's why I feel like it's better to be neutral and keep things fact-based, because then people can't try to turn things on you on how you're living your life. No, it's just facts. I'm just giving you the facts. You can judge me if you like, but I'm giving you the facts that I'm hearing and providing you every day. Sco said, I'm just saying, if the state not there, none of this stuff happens. Just leave Tennessee and New Orleans and Georgia, and the rest of the South has to go. Golly, not even Louisiana? Golly, let's go keep my hometown. Let me get my family. Let me get my family to safe haven first.
I understand why people do it, but what I'm saying is it a fair assessment for us?
Of course, it's a fair assessment.
We have nothing but a bunch of— we have nothing but mixed kids running around down here.
But just because you have mixed kids, because you have mixed kids, it doesn't mean that you're not racist.
But Don, nobody's dying now. Back then they died for looking at her. Now we're sleeping with them and having kids, and nobody's dying.
One thing. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Emmanuel. Do you know why Nolan died, or how?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right.
So I'm for an investigation. That's why I said I'm for Al and them coming here and investigating. But Don, what I'm saying is, I don't think he should have led with this strong racial, the same people killed Emmett Till. And I mean, that was almost 100 years ago. And we're now sleeping with white women, and white men are now sleeping with black women, creating babies with these people, man. I mean,
that doesn't mean that racism— I think that your idea of what racism isn't necessarily calling people the N-word or beating them up. It is a system that is based on superiority and history and presence of a different ethnicity or a different background. They still have not dealt with racial issues. And sometimes, sometimes the love for all right, especially of a certain generation, it's the same sort of love that you have for a pet, where you are.
And we love you too, Rosa. We hope that you sleep well tonight. We hope that you just really have a better night. Hopefully you wake up on the better side of the bed tomorrow, and Godspeed, okay? Guys, y'all can keep everybody in the chat. Everybody is welcome to their full opinion. Valerie said, I'm from South Florida. I don't know why it's doing this again on StreamYard. It's that delay. Let's see here. So I'm gonna let this play.
I'm serious. Where you love them, you protect them, you pay for everything, but it doesn't mean it's the same love that you have for a human being. It's kind of that, okay, I understand that. In America, the reason that we have this is because we don't deal in a fulsome way with race. We're not honest about it. And we think that racism is something where it is overt. It's not always overt. And there are people who came up through the civil rights movement, and people who were discriminated against, they're still here. And the people who were part of the Klan, there's a huge Ku Klux Klan contingent in this country. There are people who are part of the Proud Boys who said that they're racist. They're people part of the new neo-Nazis. They say they are racist, and they are open with it. So, and a lot of that comes from the South, from Louisiana, where I am, and from Mississippi. And if you go there, if you know, if I can drive 5 minutes from where you are and find a person who's involved in one of those groups and a person who's in that community. So don't tell me that racism is stamped out in Mississippi and where you are because people are sleeping together. First of all, people have urges, and people used to sleep with each other on plantations.
Yeah, which is true.
I'm just saying. The master used to sleep with the people on the plantation, women and men.
Right. I mean, I was out. Here's what I want.
That's all about urge. That's a lot about urge, and you know, you need to get your freak on.
And
I'm just saying some of that.
I think that's slightly different topic than what I was speaking of. Like this Saturday, I was out at dinner, man, and everybody in the restaurant was mixed. I mean, I see a black woman here with a Mexican guy. They got 2 kids, 16 and 17 years old. I mean,
of course, that happened. I'm from the South. I've been saying that people in the South, black people and white people, integrate more than they do in the North. But that's mostly about socioeconomics. It doesn't mean that racism is solved. It's because basically those people who live together are the same part of the socioeconomic group. So if you are mostly middle-class people and you have grown up there, you are going to pretty much be together in the same places. Right. But here in the North, it is about rich people who are all together. Most of them mainly are white because that's sort of, you know, generational wealth. Most black people didn't have the opportunity to do that. But here in the North, it is more polarized than it is in the South. The South, I think, used to be segregated, but people are more polarized here in the North than they are in the South.
And now I know you can speak on that better than most because you're from the South and you've been living all over. You've been living in the North, so I can understand.
Not only am I from the South and living in the North, my family just left here, and we had a long discussion about this, and a long discussion about people who believe that racism is over, or just because people what they're called, there's race mixing. That's what the racists used to call it back. The people who are marrying interracial marriage, they think that racism is over because of that, and it's not. But it doesn't mean that it's as bad as back in Emmett Till.
Right.
We made
racist
progress.
people is going to always be with us. There's nothing you can do about that. That's why Jesus Christ of bled and died for that very same thing. Is because racist people are going to walk amongst you. But who really cares about the quiet racist? He's a racist and he's quiet and he don't say nothing about it. He over there. If he not bothering you, he can be racist over there. As long as he don't come and shove it down my throat, I don't care what he is over there, right? He's not affecting me. If he ain't affecting me,
you don't know that.
But
you don't know what that quiet racist is doing. You don't know who he's influencing.
So I'm going to stop there. If you guys would like, you can go back and watch the entire interview on Don Lemon's page as well. And I think also some other people have cut it up, like Officer Tatum, things of that nature. Penny said, we are so far from the facts of the case. Is crazy. I would have guessed about the audio recording more. Yeah, Penny. And that's the thing, right? Everybody who, I would say probably 90% of people that you are going to see discuss this aren't even talking about the facts.
No.
It's all how they feel about racism, how they feel about Mississippi, how they feel about the world today. Like no one's really wanting to have the conversation. They're just talking. Like, and that's why, you know, we try not to do it pretty much all week. We try to save it for our town hall here on the same sort of different routes, but a lot of people are just speaking. They're just speaking to continue to bring in money.
Yeah.
It's a money grab at this point. He said, no one, welcome in everyone as well. He said, internal sports debate league said, no one in the world think racism over. That's dumb. You'll be shocked. Somebody said, leaning on race again. We appreciate you guys. Good and positive. We appreciate you guys. Valerie said, their votes are not quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel you on that. Welcome in said, prejudice is different from racism. We are very aware. Is that Mel Gillum?
Mel Gillum. Yeah.
Said, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall during the Wells family meeting today with the DA and the autopsy reveal.
I didn't even know that went down today.
Yeah, and I won't say, I'm not going to say it went down today because we haven't heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard.
Like I haven't heard, you know what I mean?
That went down today.
He said you got to learn the facts, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So
Penny said, yeah, but the money has so much blood on it. They don't care, Penny. These people don't care about blood money, man. They all about getting that bag, man. If that's what it takes, that's what they gonna do. So you got anything on that, Rain, before we move to our town hall number 2?
I think Don was reaching, you know, a little bit. He was trying to pull something out.